Last week at Charlotte, while battling for the podium, contact with a lapped truck left championship leader Daniel Knight limping home to 6th position as Abner Acosta took his first win in the trucks. Meanwhile, an off-strategy Bradley Hawley recovered to 12th position, putting him in the top 5 of the points for the first time this season. All the while, the final 12 drivers were decided for the year-long championship. As we roll into Kansas, will one of the championship drivers take a win and secure their spot in the round of 8? Or will yet another newcomer come to the fore and nab their first win of the series? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 4 of the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series, sponsored by WEBB Hearing Centers, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lindgren, and joining me in the booth is Chris Foby. Our director tonight will be the boss man, Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. Kansas is visited by both NASCAR and IndyCar most years, and to find out why they come to this mile and a half outside of Kansas City, let's take you down to our track guide.
Welcome to Kansas Speedway. Located 20 minutes west of downtown Kansas City and on the Kansas side of the border, Kansas Speedway is a 1.5-mile D-shaped oval built by International Speedway Corporation and opened in 2001. Following a reconfiguration in the summer of 2012, Kansas Speedway saw its corners go from uniform 15-degree banking to the current progressive banking, starting at 17 degrees down by the white line and working up to 20 degrees near the wall. The change in banking paved way for far more side-by-side action across the board here. A wide track, there are varying philosophies to getting around Kansas. Some prefer the bottom of the track, which while shorter and quicker, can also lead to greater tire wear. Others like to ride around by the wall, using that extra bit of banking for a bigger run off the corner and to conserve tires. A problem spot here at Kansas can be the exit of Turn 4, where the car is prone to snapping loose if the driver has too much steering input on corner exit, and the apron can also be especially slippery, particularly just past the start-finish line. The NASCAR Cup Series races here at Kansas twice a year with accompanying races from the Xfinity Series, the trucks, as well as ARCA. IndyCar held events here at Kansas from its opening in 2001 all the way through 2010, but has not been back since the repaint. Well, that's our look at Kansas Speedway. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, enjoy the show.
There you saw a couple laps here around Kansas, but Chris, why don't you talk to us about the challenges these truckers are going to face here today?
Well, some of the more unique challenges to the truck series here at Kansas, Adam, is going to be the way these trucks race. The engine configuration we've talked about a lot throughout the season, but it's going to lend you more towards a almost super speedway style race for a good majority of the tire run here at Kansas. Also look for, once tire wear goes away, turns 2 and turns 4 to be some of the trouble spots as the handle goes away from these trucks and the drivers will have to start pedaling a little bit more deeper into the run.
Yeah, Chris, I've definitely seen some of these truckers be on edge as they exit 2 and 4. But one thing that is not going to leave you on edge is having some good hearing, and in that we want to recommend WEBB Hearing in Arizona. Visit them at webhearingcenters.com. That is WEBB hearingcenters.com.
And also our league sponsor is the ButtKicker. The ButtKicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Visit thebuttkicker.com today to view their full line of products.
All right, now we are going to talk about the Drivers' Championship standings, starting off with Daniel Knight currently leading, but after a 6th-place finish last week, he's only 4 points up ahead of John LeBath in 2nd place. Mark Kalin, with his 2nd place last week, draws him up to 3rd. And then we've got a whole host of drivers tied for 4th and 5th. Bradley Hawley makes his jump into the top 5, as I mentioned in the pre-race. Just there in 4th position, tied with Brandon Walter. Then we have Brett Adams, Colton Lane, and Danny Cervantes tied for 5th position down there in 5th, only 1 point back of that 4th spot. So really, it's anybody's game for the driver's standings as far as this season is concerned. But what about the teams, Chris?
Well, the team's championship is heating up pretty well too, Adam. The WEBB Jelly Rolls team is still out in front, but it's the Back Row Racing Squad just 9 points out of that lead. So a very alive battle there up front for the team's championship. And then towards the middle there, things heat up as well with the Riding Shotgun Outlaws just 17 points back. And then 24 points back from the lead is the Ballistic Union. with the Rescue Racing Ladder 2 squad hanging on that 5th spot.
And now for the playoffs. The round of 12 has been decided, and that's going to be Bradley Hawley, Thomas Sink, Daniel Knight, Adam Zemke, Colton Lane, Charles Sumner, Brandon Walter, and John LeBaff all currently in the safe zone, with Austin Hunter, Brett Adams, Mike Richter, and Adam Shane currently in the dropout zone. So all these drivers are going to be competing for that round of 8 that will start in Phoenix in 3 weeks' time. So these drivers are going to be very concerned about trying to get that win here tonight and secure their spot in the round of 8. But Chris, why don't you take us through the race details?
That's right, Adam. Per usual, this is a 85 lap affair for the PRL Truck Series. 3 spare sets of tires down in the pit area, so including the one they start on, there'll be 4 sets of tires to last the distance here. It is a fixed setup series, so everybody starts on the same page. And that 24 incident limit, hopefully nobody taps into that here tonight.
So practice currently underway. A couple of stories we want to catch you up on. Some drivers starting from the end of the line at the beginning of this race. That's going to be Kenny Rodriguez and Matthew Aubry. They were found at fault for cautions. Then Matthew Kolnick also found at fault for a caution and causing that interference with the lead lap traffic that we saw really define the end of the race at Charlotte. So all these drivers are going to start from the back and will not be allowed to qualify this race.
You know, we've seen on these 1.5-mile tracks, though, these guys can pass. So while it does definitely add to the difficulty having to start in the back, it's definitely not a deal breaker for some of these drivers.
Definitely, and as we're seeing right now, Thomas Sink trying to put some laps down, and these trucks look like they're really on a knife's edge. They're extremely fast around here, Chris, but they seem to be very, very tough to try and get perfect, as you see Thomas Sink getting up at the outside wall there.
Yeah, it's not looking like the most fun to drive as they get later into the practice runs. And it's going to make for great racing here, but unfortunately, maybe a little less fun for some of the drivers out there.
So as practice continues, we want to remind you that GSRC has available advertising options. This channel boasts over 1 million global monthly impressions, and the branding opportunities include those official series sponsorships, ad reads, race awards, and more. The race awards are particularly cool. I love seeing those with sponsorship involved. You want to follow the link in the video description to learn more about that. We look forward to talking to you there. Currently at the top of the timing charts is Austin Hunter, which is a little bit of a surprise to the both of us, Chris. We were talking about this before we went to air, but Austin Hunter seems to be finding his pace at one of the more unique 1.5-mile tracks right now.
Yeah, this is absolutely no degradation on Austin Hunter's ability here that we were surprised he was at the top of the charts. Just there's some constants that you seem to find in the PRL. Kind of like death and taxes, you usually expect Bradley Hawley to be top of the charts in practice, and he's not today. Austin Hunter put in a great lap of 38.91. It's the time to beat right now in hot laps, and that's a very impressive lap here, especially for Austin Hunter.
Seeing the results of a practice start, getting going here under these practice conditions, and it sure looks like these trucks are quite loose on the first couple of laps around here. They do seem to settle in a little bit later on, but the weather is looking to be a little bit of a factor here. 94-degree track temperature is a little hot for these drivers, but not the worst that we've seen in the series so far, especially in 1.5 miles.
Yeah, these are, compared to what we've seen throughout the season, 94-degree track temperatures are definitely pretty mild. But then again, we've been to such places like Las Vegas in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, so as they close in on 10 seconds to go in practice, Austin Hunter will take the lead of that practice session and take that into qualifying. But now we're going into lone qualifying here for these drivers. This means that they will be out on the track alone, just by themselves, with no other trucks on track. But that being said, the track degradation and the tire buildup does transfer between the sessions. So going out early, going out late, that's going to be determined by when you think the weather's going to be affected the most and how you think that's going to affect your times around here.
Yeah, cloud cover plays a surprising role here because the heat and temperature of the track can be the difference between maybe not a whole lot of time but when you're qualifying in a field as tight as this one, every increment of a second counts.
I want to give a big shout out and happy birthday to Baron Hilton. You see that it's his birthday today, so congrats to Baron on that birthday, getting another year notched on the belt. We look forward to seeing him race tonight, and he's actually been doing pretty well this season, battling up there for the top 5, top 10 positions throughout the season so far.
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement on how last season went for him. So very cool to see Baron kind of working his way back up and getting closer and closer to the front of the field.
Riding on board with Patrick Cowgill, we were there for a moment through 1 and 2. You could see sawing the wheel just a little bit, trying to get a little bit of warmth into those tires. Currently on his first lap of 2 that you get in this lone qualifying session. We'll see what kind of time he puts in. He'll be one of our first to cross the line here, so as he exits 4, doesn't quite get up to the outside wall, but that might be for the best as he drops down below the apron, crosses the line. A 31.488 is going to be good enough for third as more times start to come in. Austin Hunter once again strong in qualifying, but he gets bopped by Doyle Lawrence and then Mark Kalin, so the times coming thick and fast right now.
Not only are Mark Kalin and Doyle Lawrence both pretty fast, they actually ran identical times to the thousandths of a second.
iRacing does have ways of determining who does cross the line before one another when you get down to that narrow of a margin. So we get down to a 10,000th of a second is where they're going to be measured. But Patrick Calgill's second lap is faster, and the clouds did come out, so we should see those times start to crawl down a little bit. Patrick might have gone a little bit too early, Chris.
Yeah, we talked about the cloud cover playing a role. As soon as we mentioned the clouds, Doug Evans, Brendan Chatley, Dominic Beijing, and Kenny Rodriguez and now Daniel Knight all breaking into the top 5 here just since the cloud covers rolled out onto the speedway.
Daniel Knight up to second position. He's going to need a good start to try and keep that lead over the charging Bradley Holly. Bradley has not had the best start of the season so far. He's just now starting to get going from the pit lane for his first couple laps with Thomas Sink, a very strong contender so far, but he's only currently 23rd on the timing sheet, so he's hoping the second lap is much faster.
Yeah, and so far we're definitely paying attention to how those second laps are running as Thomas Sink comes around for his second lap time. That's going to put him P2 on the charts. Oh, and gets bumped already as Paul Johnson now takes over the top spot.
And just a reminder that all of these times are currently within about half a second, all the way down to John LaBeouf in 28th position. But Bradley Holly now coming around to start, I believe, his first lap. No, this will be to start his first lap of the day. So he will start his first lap and come around here. Bradley Holly very strong in qualifying and on pit lane. It's been what has made the difference for him in seasons past. But look at this, taking that high line to try and build up more momentum on his first lap.
Yeah, Holly's definitely going to be somebody that's in contention for the pole. I'm excited to see what kind of time you can put down here as we're in the last minute and a half of this qualifying session.
Looks like Richard Regan Jr. is going to do a great job getting up to P2 right now. Great job on his second lap to get some time, but here comes Bradley Holly through 1 and 2. He's going to be looking at Paul Johnson's time at the lead to try and get a pole position here. Great for him to do so. Currently listed in 29th position. He's just going to have to be clean through 3 and 4. We'll see what kind of time he can put in. Here he comes through 3 and 4 on the exit of 4, taking it very shallow. He's going to dip down to the apron as soon as possible and crosses the line of 31.341, and that's going to be good enough for pole position. Bradley Holly leaps to the pole with only 4 drivers left in qualifying, 43 seconds left. Paul Williams looks to be the only one who has a chance at taking that spot away, and he's currently on his second lap. Paul Williams currently listed in the 27th position, so if Bradley Holly's first lap was to gauge anything, it looks like Paul Williams might have a chance here, but he's taking that high line yet again on the second lap, so I'm not sure it's going to be good.
We talk about the whole field being close with about a half second from fastest to slowest in qualifying, but how about this? Just 3 1,000ths of a second between first and second. That's quicker than you can blink your eyes.
And it is less than a tenth between first and 18th position. So as Paul Williams crosses the line, only good enough for 26th position. That will take us to the grid. Bradley Holly takes pole position yet again here in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. Let's see whether he can hold on to it tonight. Paul Johnson's going to line up on his outside with Richard Regan Jr. lining up on row 2 next to Doug Evans. Brett Adams is going to start off in 5th with Thomas Sink in 6th. Daniel Knight all the way down in 7th position due to having that early qualifying time. Adam Young is going to line up 8th, his best start, I believe, of the season so far. Brendan Chatley in 9th, and Dominic Bajin in 10th.
And then just outside of the top 10 is going to be Brandon Walter in 11th with Kenny Rodriguez to his outside. Row number 7 is going to be Patrick Cowgill and Danny Cervantes, with Adam Shane and Austin Hunter composing row number 8. Jose Medina and Charles Sumner will make up row number 9. The 19th and 20th on the grid are going to be Mark Kalin and Doyle Lawrence.
21st is going to be Kyle Strykars with Baron Hilton in 22nd. Mike Richter lining up in 23rd position with Christopher B. Williams outside of him on row 12. 25th will be Nicholas Hunter with Paul Williams in 26th. Row 14 being Greg Corzin and Josue Telez. And 29th, Stacy Hunter. 30th, Colton Lane.
Just outside of the top 30 is Ryan Traver in 31st with John Labash, our final driver to put in a qualifying time. Then our drivers that did not make a qualifying attempt, Matthew Aubrey, Matthew Kulhanek, and Brandon Sauls completing the 35 truck field.
So a large field today, a great field. It's good to see all these drivers continuing to come back every single time for these races here. And maintaining this big field is a great thing, and quite frankly, the racing has been fairly clean up to this point in the season. Great to see everyone being consistent out there on track, and we've seen a lot of competitiveness up in the top 5 and top 10, Chris.
That is a fact, Adam. This field has been so close this season everywhere we've gone, and the racing has been amazing week in and week out. And I'm excited to see what these guys can bring to the table here in Kansas.
The iRacing trucks, the NASCAR trucks, may be seen as a little bit of a feeder series in the iRacing and NASCAR worlds, but here in the PRL, this is some of the hottest competition that you can get out there on track, and it's awesome to see this many trucks lining up. But Bradley Holly will lead them to the line with Paul Johnson on his outside. Paul Johnson, I think this is going to be his best start of the season so far as well, so don't think for one second that he's going to let Bradley Holly just snake away with this. Paul Johnson has been struggling with track position all season.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers that have really peaked here at Kansas, and a lot of names we don't get to see up at the front as often that have qualified really well. And also excited to see Richard Regan Jr. back in the field, Adam. He's kind of an infrequent visitor to the Truck Series, and always puts on a show when he's here.
He's always quick whenever he does show up. The Mustang pace car is leading them through 3 and 4. It will peel off and leave Bradley Holly in control of the field. Bradley Holly, a master on restarts. He always seems to get a good one. Pace car already off. It's such an early pit road here, but Bradley Holly's going to lead them to the line. He's going to wait just a bit into the restart zone. Waits quite late, but Paul Johnson gets a good jump. Is he going to have jumped him too much? Not quite. Bradley Holly will lead them to the line. Paul Johnson with a decent run on the outside, but they are stacked up too wide and multiple deep as they go through. Richard Regan Jr. pushing Bradley Holly through 1 and 2. Paul Johnson falling away on the high side.
Don't be too surprised to see this race like a super speedway event here in the early running, as these drivers are able to go just about flat out and cover on these trucks.
Look at Richard Regan Jr. peeking down to the inside of Bradley Holly. Bradley Holly now stuck on the outside. Richard Regan gets a little bit loose on the bottom side. He's going to have to hold on to it there with Brett Adams looking down below Richard Regan Jr. It's going to be 3 wide as they cross the line. Bradley Holly will lead them possibly 4 wide with Paul Johnson looking to the outside there. It's going to be 3 wide once again as they go into 1 and 2. It's very tight racing there. Richard Regan Jr. on the right, rear of Brett Adams. Paul Johnson all the way scraping the wall on the high side. These trucks look very loose as they go through the corner.
That 23 of Brett Adams contending for the runner-up position right now. He was your winner back at Las Vegas. He is very proficient on these 1.5-mile tracks and is right now challenging Bradley Holly for the lead.
Jose Medina made a little bit of contact with, I believe, Paul Williams at the beginning of that race, but they all get going once again, so no caution being caused, but a little bit of damage for those drivers towards the back of the field. Bradley Holly currently leads over Paul Johnson, Richard Regan Jr. in 3rd, just above Daniel Knight, who has made his way up from 8th position on the grid up to that 4th spot, making a brave move on the bottom underneath Brett Adams, and here comes Doug Evans on that high side, and now Bradley Holly getting pushed into 3 and 4. We're riding on board with Doug Evans as he's looking on this battle for the lead.
Don't forget progressive banking here at the Kansas Speedway. So the higher up you get on the track, the more bank you're going to have and the more momentum you're going to be able to drive off the corner. You can see Bradley Holly using that to his advantage right now to hang on to the lead.
Tight, tough, rough and tumble racing has been the name of the game this entire season, and Kansas is no different. These drivers all very, very tight up front of the field. Bradley Holly running that extreme high outside line. Richard Regan Jr. using up a little bit more tires on the bottom lane. Here comes Daniel Knight looking to the inside, the middle there. Paul Johnson looking extremely loose on that high side. Bradley Holly's going to sweep down in front of the entire field, try and get a cleaner run through the front straightaway here as they go back into 1 and 2.
Another aspect is the 184 running where they're not would break up the draft a little bit, but it almost seems like moving across the track that much has scrubbed off maybe a little bit of speed there on his entry into 1 and 2 that allowed Richard Regan Jr. to pull up to him, but with no help from behind, Regan struggling to get by.
Regan just not able to carry the speed off the corners that he is quite used to. Bradley Holly just so strong off of those corners, is able to carry more speed. Richard Regan Jr. all the way down to the bottom side, riding on board with Brett Adams at this point, currently in the 7th position, but he is just 1/10 out of the lead of this race. As it, like you said, Chris, it's totally a pack race right now up at the front of the field.
Yeah, Regan looks like he's broken away a little bit up front. As you can see, Brett Adams digging on that bottom line again, just needs a little bit of help. Maybe a little bit of a side draft there into the corner, able to stall out the 14 a little bit and get a somewhat advantage.
These trucks are riding on a razor's edge at this point. Richard Regan Jr. is going to dive down to the bottom lane and lead a lap, I believe. Wow, it was close. We're going to have to take a look there. Richard Regan Jr. does lead that lap. It was very tight. In fact, they were pretty much even on time as they went across the line, but Richard Regan Jr. getting a little bit tight on the low side. He's going to squeeze Bradley Holly off the corner. They almost make contact as they go down the back straightaway.
It's definitely going to start to
Paul Johnson, he's hit the outside wall hard. He's falling back like a rock. The rest of the field making scrambling to avoid him.
You're right. He must have hit the wall a ton, Adam. He is just absolutely hemorrhaging spots.
Actually, there were a couple drivers who made contact. That we're going to get a replay of this one. This is Paul Johnson just making contact with that outside wall on the exit of, on the entry of 3. And it looks like the 312 of Austin Hunter also made contact with that outside wall. So quite a few drivers running afoul of that outside wall on this, I believe it's the 8th lap of the race.
That's one of the problems when you run up against the wall like that in the upper groove. Your margin for error is so razor thin. You slip up just a little bit and you hammer that outside wall, and it could legitimately ruin your day, as we saw for Paul Johnson.
On the progressive ranking, it's the fastest way around the track, but it's not the safest. Daniel Knight getting very loose on the exit of 2 there. Goodness gracious, but now that we've had that contact with Paul Johnson, it's very much single file here up at the front of the field. Everybody just following nose to tail at this point in the race. These trucks extremely loose as they seem to get further on in their tire life. Only 10 laps of a stick at this point. Richard Regan Jr. looking to the bottom of Daniel Knight as Daniel Knight's just going to be running up on the bumper of Bradley Holly here. Richard Regan Jr. is going to dive down to the bottom and try and take that 2nd position away.
These are definitely 3 top talents we have up front right now, Adam. Champions of different series within the PRL, or at least contenders. And a lot of race wins under the belt with these 3 drivers as well.
Absolutely, and as these leaders go single file, the battles continue on throughout the rest of the pack as they try and sort themselves out. We're looking a little bit further back on the battle for 13th position. This is between Charles Sumner, Danny Cervantes, and Adam Shane, and there's a caution. Keeping my eyes out for who it might be. It might be Paul Johnson. We're going to take a look here. Yes, it was Paul Johnson. He was very slow on the track. He appeared to pull over, but I don't believe that NASCAR deemed it to be a safe exit, so unfortunately, he's probably going to get credit for that caution. Well, this has broken up the field just a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how the tire strategy goes here because, Chris, their best laps are in the mid-31s, and their last laps were in the 33s. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not everybody comes to pit road this time or not.
Yeah, we are right around that point where the tires start to fall off here at Kansas. So I wouldn't be surprised to see people come down and at least take tires at this point. because I think it definitely will make a difference in the lap times.
That being said, we're only 12 laps into this race out of 85. If this becomes a little bit more of a caution fest, they could run out of tires towards the end of this race. Remember that they only get 4 sets of tires for the entire race. 3 in the pits and the one that they're driving on right now. So a decent amount of the field stays out, but Brendan Chatley's going to come in. We have a couple more in the back of the field. Looks like that's going to be Kyle Strykars, Mark Kalin, Josue Telez are also going to come into the field, and pretty much everybody from 20th on down is going to come as well.
I'm actually somewhat surprised to see both Bradley Holly and Daniel Knight stay out. I would have thought maybe once Daniel got an idea that Bradley was staying out, he may run counter strategy, but here we are, and both of our top drivers are going to be on track.
So Brendan Chatley will not be the first off of pit lane. That's going to be Kyle Strykars, who looks like he took 2 tires. So a couple of drivers choosing to take 2 tires. Christopher B. Williams as well. Brendan Chatley takes a full service, as well as the rest of the field. So it's going to be Kyle Strykars, Brendan Chatley, and Christopher B. Williams who are going to win the battle off of pit road. Looks like quite a few drivers on pit road with significant damage here as well. From Kenny Rodriguez on back, we have quite a few drivers that have made contact with that outside wall, Chris.
Well, we mentioned the outside line is the fast way around the track here at Kansas, but again, when you're on the outside, you're only inches away from that wall, and it's not too hard to have that reach out and bite you.
Well, as they run, it is Bradley Holly in the lead of the race with Daniel Knight in second. Richard Riga Jr. is in third position. Doug Evans currently in fourth, and Brett Adams in fifth. And the biggest mover of the race so far is actually Matthew Aubry. Matthew Aubry currently in 16th position, but he started in 32nd and currently running in that 16th spot. Now, granted, he was behind all of these drivers who pit behind him, except for Ryan Traver, who's currently in 17th. But Matthew making up some decent spots here on this strategy. Let's see whether or not it pays off, or whether he gets gobbled up by these folks who took tires behind him.
That's one positive to starting at the back of the field, like Aubry had to do here today, is it kind of opens up the door to maybe try some stuff that you wouldn't normally do if you were up in the mix. But if you're already at the back, then there's no reason to hesitate.
So Kyle Strykars and Christopher B. Williams have both taken 2 tires on their pit stops. So interesting strategies there. They'll be the only drivers on 2 tires. Brendan Chatley splits them currently. Brendan Chatley being in 19th position. He's the first truck on 4 tires. So as we go around, I believe the lights will go off this time, and it'll be interesting to see how far these drivers get. Now, we have some fast drivers back there in that pack. Mark Kalin, currently third in the points, is running in the 21st position, but he has taken full service pit stop. Brendan Chatley, we know, is very consistent, can run up there in the top 5. He's also taken the full service. Josue Telez has been quick in years past. John LaBaff, second place in the points, currently down there in the 23rd position, having taken tires. So it's going to be interesting to see how far these guys climb. For those of you wondering where Thomas Sink is, Thomas Sink currently second in our year-long championship. He's currently in the 6th position, just hanging out there back in the 6th spot, trying to gain a little bit of track position off of his start.
I gotta say, the scenery here in Kansas, Adam, is surprisingly beautiful for being in Kansas.
Yes, it's gorgeous. We have iRacing has done an excellent job of capturing the beauty that surrounds this Kansas Motor Speedway. But as we get ready to go back green, Bradley Holly will lead them to the line with Daniel Knight on his outside, Richard Regan Jr. in third, tucked in behind Bradley, with Doug Evans in fourth, tucked in behind Daniel Knight. Thomas Sink currently riding, I believe he's riding in fifth, with Brett Adams in sixth. But here we go. The pace car will pull off. This will release Bradley Holly. Will he wait as long as he did last time? He's actually going to spool them up a little bit, and he's going to go as soon as he hits that restart line and drops all the way down into the apron there and crosses the start-finish line with quite a big gap. That's Daniel Knight, who's having to give way to Richard Regan Jr. currently on the inside. But remember, these guys are not on fresh tires, so the bottom line is going to be very slick for these drivers. Let's see how they handle it coming off of 1 and 2.
Well, 17 to Daniel Knight went for a crossover and just barely tipped the back bumper of the 46 of Richard Regan Jr. Could have been a disastrous moment, but looks like everybody's able to continue on.
Daniel Knight, though, looking to the bottom side of Richard Regan Jr., trying to hold it off down there. Really difficult to do. It sure seems like Daniel Knight getting extremely loose off of 3 and 4. He's going to be trying to look for a way to get back up there. And he is going to be able to find a spot right in front of Brett Adams.
Yeah, Brett Adams could have pressed the issue there and maybe closed up that hole. But looks like they're playing nice here at this early portion of the race.
So the entire front group is entirely single file here, and it's only until you get further back into the folks who have taken pit stops where things really start to get a little bit messy. As we're taking a look right now, wow, it's 3 wide coming off the corner. And
you got to think towards the front of the field right now, knowing that they're on a slightly disadvantageous tire strategy compared to everybody else at the moment. You got to think those guys are all going to cooperate somewhat to try to keep things safe. Of course, as I say that, it looks like somebody may attack the wall there. It looks like Dominic Beijing.
Yeah, Dominic Beijing tagging the outside wall. He's got a little bit of right front damage. That's not going to help him when it comes to turning those corners. Everyone having to make evasive action to avoid him at this point, but everyone's still running safely. The top 3 look like they're all running nose to tail. They don't really want to make any moves at this point. I think that tire wear is really starting to get to them. Mark Kalin, though, making the fastest lap of the race in 19th position. Those new tires are working for him.
Yeah, you got to think the more cooperative they are towards the front of the field, the longer they're going to be able to stave off the challenge of those on fresher tires.
Speaking of the fresher tires, first truck on tires is going to be Christopher B. Williams. That's a 2-stopper. Brendan Chatley currently right in behind him in 16th place. Actually, Brendan Chatley making the pass on Christopher B. Williams. This is a huge gaggle of trucks right here. Trucks with no tires, trucks with some tires, trucks with 4 tires, all tucked into this group, and it is almost chaos as they come out of there. Brendan Chatley, though, really making use of those 4 tires. He's trying to make a move there, but that is Christopher B. Williams, who's not going to want to let him go by on those 2 tires that he took. But look at the progress they're making down the low side, and I believe that's Adam Young stuck on the wall on the outside. He made contact up there. I believe everyone's going to be able to get by him safely, though.
Tough break for Adam Young off of his best qualifying performance of the season. Unfortunately, that wall reaches out and gets another one.
We're taking a look at this replay. This is just one of those moments that's very stressful for all of these drivers as he just clips the outside wall going through 3 and 4 here. Just pushes up into it, unfortunately. And we have a wreck. Looks like it's Dominic Beijing once again. Here's the replay. It's going in. It's coming out of 1 and 2. We'll see it right here. Unfortunately, it looks to be a little bit of netcode there with the 52 truck. Ends up getting him sideways, and he wrecks in front of the field. Also wrecking Brendan Chatley, who was on that 4-tire stop. Christopher B. Williams caught up a little bit in that damage, but is able to get up fairly safely. There's Brendan Chatley recovering from that incident. He went around. Nice 360 there. Let's take a look at it.
Yeah, you can see the 66 get out of line and just, unfortunately, just Brendan Chatley nowhere to go, just a passenger at that point. Does a great 360, though, like you mentioned. It was a piece of a very artful stunt driving there.
Well, the leaders are all coming to pit road this time. I think that they learned their lesson from not taking tires, but they had to make it to this point because closing in on that halfway to go, on that quarter to go mark. So they just crossed a quarter to go, and I think that's that mark that everyone was waiting for. Jose Tellez is going to go through, so is John LeBaff. So a couple of drivers who did take those stops early on are going to continue on forward. But here comes that pit road challenge that Bradley Holly is so good at. Let's see how he does trying to beat everyone out of pit road.
Yeah, Holly just seems to be on another level compared to everybody else in the field when it comes to pit stops. He looked human last week during the pit cycle, which was kind of surprising, but we'll see how things roll here.
He's going to be able to beat them all out, beating out Richard Regan Jr. Brett Adams is going to take that spot over Daniel Knight, so Daniel Knight bumped back down a spot there. Thomas is going to get out 5th off of pit road.
And that's one of the way Bradley Holly has really mastered this series in a lot of ways, and gone towards championship glory so many times, is just capitalizing on those little situations like pit road.
So currently as they run, Josue Tellez, John LeBaff, Paul Williams, and Kenny Rodriguez all stayed out, and your top 5 is going to be rounded out by Bradley Holly, our first truck that is pit this time around. That's going to take us to a short break, but we'll be back for the green flag, so don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss the rest of this race here on the GSRC. Welcome back to the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series here on GSRC. This is round 4 here at Kansas. Currently coming to the restart. This is the second restart of the day. Josue Tellez will lead with John LeBaff in second, Paul Williams third, and Kenny Rodriguez. They all pitted about 10-12 laps ago. Bradley Holly is leading those who have pitted this time around. So a new leader for this restart. On different strategy as well, so the top 4 on a completely different strategy. The pace car is going to pull off. Josue Tellez will have control of this restart. He's going to wait until they get just before that restart zone, and he's going to kick it into high gear. That's Paul Williams who's going to follow him through. John LeBaff getting caught out on that high side. Looks like it's going to bottle up quite a few trucks as they head into 1 and 2.
Not just caught out, John LeBaff looks like he got caught napping on that one.
So as they go through the corner, it's 3 wide nearly. Thomas Sink actually clipping the bottom apron. He's going to get a little bit loose there on the bottom side. He's going to be able to recover, but man, that was some close stuff. But already those drivers who have taken pit stops this past time are starting to go forward, and we might have a wreck in the back of the field again. We do. It's going to be Danny Cervantes, Greg Corzin, Colton Lane.
All right, got the replay up on the screen here. Following off a turn 2, going down the back straightaway. It looks like everybody just kind of touches doors and chaos reigns from there.
Yeah, it's actually started with the slow truck of the 28. That is Ryan Traver. Ryan Traver was slow going out, exiting the corner, and everyone just trying to carry speed through, trying to get out of each other's way to avoid Ryan Traver, who's slow on the high side, makes contact, and just a ton of contact between those trucks. Lots of trucks banged up after that one.
And drivers like Colton Lane being caught in that one, those are drivers that are having some really tough luck this season. Unfortunately, Colton Lane, a hard charger, but man, he just cannot seem to catch a break this season.
So it looks like everyone's going to elect to stay out this time unless they were involved in that incident. So we won't have a change of position up front. Currently as they run, Paul Williams, Josue Tellez are currently leading this race 1 and 2. Bradley Holly, your first truck to have pitted recently, coming in third with John LaBaff on that alternate strategy in fourth. Brett Adams he pit with Bradley Holly, then Richard Regan Jr., Daniel Knight, Thomas Sink, Patrick Cowgill, and then Kenny Rodriguez, another truck on alternate strategy. But things got a little bit tightened up there at the beginning of that race because of the way that the restart was handled.
Yeah, I can't tell for sure right now if a caution coming out this early after going back to green was a good thing or not, Adam.
Well, it depends on which driver you're talking to. I think Bradley Holly is going to be enjoying that because it means he's going to get a little bit more life out of those tires, but he's going to have to make quick work of Paul Williams and Josue Tellez and have to hope that some of the other drivers, such as Brett Adams and Richard Regan Jr., don't climb a little bit further through the field quite as quickly. If he can make these passes on these two drivers up ahead of him quickly, he could start to pull away and pull that gap that we're so accustomed to seeing him do. He hasn't been able to do that much this season.
You got to wonder, too, maybe the tires having a chance to cool a little bit for the top two may help them out as well, get a little bit more life out of these tires. But I definitely think that's a strong point with Bradley Holly there. With basically no laps on those tires, this is just extending the amount of time those tires will be to the good.
Many drivers were asking, when does Bradley Holly's luck run out when it comes to this series? And it seems to be this season. But this particular race, he's in a great position to put himself in the lead here. But once again, it's going to come down to how his luck fares with the cautions. I mean, last week he was caught out by a late race caution that affected him when he was on his green flag pit stop. Race beforehand, it was contact with a lap truck. I mean, it's just been a tough season for him, but he keeps plugging forward, and he's already made it into the top 5 in the points.
And the way this season's gone, I mean, it's been borderline chaotic with the amount of different drivers we've had taking wins this season. So just breaking into that top 5 and maybe getting some consistency under his belt with things maybe calming down towards the middle portion of this season will help out a lot.
You know how you were mentioning Colton Lane and the trouble he's been having? He's currently in the round of 12, but currently listed in 30th position. And with the amount of damage he has on the right side of his truck, it's going to be hard for him to recover from that in this round. So he's going to have to hope that Texas or Martinsville is going to be nicer to him. I mean, I'm sure all these round of 12 drivers are hoping they're secured in their spots into the round of 8 before they go into Martinsville. But Colton Lane, I mean, at this point, he's going to have to just hope that he can cling on to some sort of points here.
Yeah, I think that's pretty wishful thinking to hope Martinsville is going to be nicer to you. I don't think Martinsville is ever nice.
It usually isn't, but the rest of our championship runners seem to be doing a little bit better. Most of them have a couple of drivers have a decent amount of damage. Austin Hunter has some damage down there in the 20th position as well. But most of the drivers who are in the round of 12 are currently running up there in the top 15 positions, but we are doubled up and ready to go back racing with the Mustang pacing car, or Mustang pace car, leading them back to the restart. Paul Williams will lead them with Josue Tellez on the outside. Bradley Holly lined up behind Paul Williams. John LaBaff lined up behind Josue Tellez. Let's see how Paul Williams handles this restart. Last time it went well for him, but is he going to be able to catch out Josue Tellez the same way as he did before? Alrighty, so as they come through 3 and 4, the pace car will pull off early. Doesn't look like we're going to get an opportunity for green flag pit stops this race, but Paul Williams leading them to the line. Josue Tellez jumps a little bit early. Paul's going to try and catch him off guard and manages to. This is going to bottle up the field once again, but Paul Williams not able to get the shift into 4th gear quite as effective as he was hoping. 3rd gear, rather. And Paul Williams is going to jump in front of his teammate Josue Tellez, but they're going to both slide through the corner, and here comes Bradley Holly on the high side with those newer tires.
You got to wonder how effectively the tires were able to cool on the 7 and the 1 machines, but Bradley Holly with a full head of steam down the back straightaway.
And here comes all the rest of the trucks on those fresher tires looking at that high side. John LaBaff trying to hold on. Looks like his truck's getting a little bit loose at the beginning of this run, but we have now trucks on the newer tires on the high line, trucks on the older tires on the low line, and Bradley Holly trying to get pushed to the lead of this race by Richard Regan Jr. Those two drivers have worked well in seasons past. Brett Adams trying to follow them through on that high side in the 23 blue and white machine, but that's Paul Williams trying to hang on to it. He almost slides up into Richard Regan Jr. They're going to make contact between Brett Adams and Paul Williams. Paul Williams shuffled down to the bottom of the track. This is going to bottle up everyone behind him.
Yeah, you can see the one of Jose Tellez stuck in the middle, and everybody's scrambling around him right now, as looks like they're about to be 3 wide down that straightaway.
3 wide, 2 deep there for these trucks. That's Daniel Knight on the very bottom trying to make that pass work. Oh, contact between the 911 and the 7 truck. They're all around. This is going to be a massive wreck. They're still wrecking as they go through 1 and 2. That was a little bit of 3 wide action, tightening up into the entry to 1. We're going to see it on the replay here.
Yeah, it just looks like the 911 and the 7 both going for the same piece of real estate there, Adam. And everybody else just gets caught up in it.
It looks like the 7 was a little bit intimidated by how tight Daniel Knight was making it coming into the entry to 1. There was enough room for those 3 trucks there, but the 7 just trying to make sure he didn't make door-to-door contact with the 17 ends up coming up into the 911. We're going to ride on board with Adam Shane, who had a good view of how this all played out. Oh. Well, that changes the complexion of this race entirely.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a game changer with some really top contenders that were caught up in that one, Adam. This is going to change the complexion of this race a lot.
Absolutely. So Bradley Holly, Richard Regan Jr., Brett Adams, Daniel Knight, all having taken their pit stops 11 laps ago. Jose Tellez is the first truck, the remaining surviving truck on that alternate strategy. He's going to duck to pit lane and take a decent amount of the midfield with him. But those drivers who pit just 11 laps ago, most of them are staying out except for the midfield runners. But look at this. Lots of drivers indecisive at this point on whether to come down to the pits or not.
With all of these cautions happening pretty much in rapid succession here, it's going to throw any strategy plans you had going into this race into total chaos. I mean, and the way that the pit stops have fallen already, it's just all kinds of confusion for these drivers. I'm thankful that we're here commentating and I'm not having to decide what the best strategy is.
Absolutely. It's very stressful for these drivers to try and decide on what the strategy is. Now remember, they are running that 75% fuel, so if they pit this time, I believe they possibly could make it to the end of the race on fuel. So these drivers should be fine to do that, but I don't think the tire life is going to let you do that. But at this point, these drivers who have come into the pits yet a second time, this means that's their second set of tires 35 laps in. We're not even halfway at this point yet, Chris.
Yeah, these guys have to be careful how quickly they're going through those sets of tires, because they now have to make it to lap 85 with only 2 sets sitting in the pit stall. So these drivers may want to start considering some conservation on those tires instead of just switching them out every other caution.
So we do have drivers who did decide to pit the last caution. The first of those being Dominic Magine in the 13th spot, Colton Lane in 14th, but Colton has some significant damage. So does Dominic Magine, to be honest. So most of those drivers are not going to be in contention to really make a challenge here. But Jose Tellez, having just pit, is only back down in the 16th position. Now, we saw how quickly some of these drivers on fresh tires cut through the field, so it'll be interesting to see how he's going to be able to make progress here when they get back to the restart.
Yeah, hopefully these drivers can settle down a little bit, and we can keep this going for a few laps.
I mean, Chris, they're going to have to, because at this point we've lost 5 drivers, and we have 14 trucks total with significant damage. So these drivers are going to have to calm down a little bit if they want to make it to the end of the race and get any sort of resemblance on points. I mean, when you go into the round of 12 with a lineup like Kansas, Texas, and Martinsville, you're expecting Martinsville to be the one where you have a lot of trucks that have a lot of damage and trucks getting wrecked out. But Kansas is proving to be a little bit of a beast for these drivers.
Which is surprising too, because these drivers have raced so well on these 1.5 and bigger tracks. I mean, we went to Talladega and went caution-free for the most part. I mean, these drivers this is definitely an anomaly for these drivers this season. We're not used to this many cautions.
As we go back to wide, the Mustang pace car leading them around yet again. Chris, how much of that do you think is due to how on edge this setup seems to be for these drivers today?
I mean, that is definitely a factor with these fixed setups, and you know, it's always a compromise for these drivers. You don't have the truck set up the way you like it. You have the way that iRacing sets it up, and as such, you have to learn how to adapt. And these drivers are driving through the setup and not driving with the setup right now, and I think that's why we're having so many issues.
Absolutely. It's a whole skill set in and of itself to drive another driver's setup. A lot of drivers talk about how difficult that is. You can see evidence of that in different series throughout the world, primarily in F1 this past weekend. But as we come back to the green flag, this time it's going to be Bradley Hawley leading with Richard Regan Jr. in second, Brett Adams lining up on the bottom, Daniel Knight lining up on the top in the second lane. Then we have Brandon Walter, Thomas Sink, Mark Kalin, Barron Hilton, Jose Medina, and Christopher B. Williams rounding out your top 10 as the Mustang pace car ducks off the track. That's going to be Bradley Hawley leading into line. As usual, he's going to roll it up just a little bit on pace, and then he's going to boost it as soon as they hit that restart line. He's going to beat out Richard Regan Jr., who drops down right in behind him. Brett Adams and Daniel Knight battling for that second position, but they left the rest of the pack behind. So as they go through 1 and 2 here, very tight for the top 4. That's going to be Richard Regan Jr. looking to the inside, but the rest of the pack did not get up to speed with them. It's strung on them out single file, and there's a big cluster back there for about the 11th position. But Richard Regan Jr. down to the bottom of the track. He's looking for the lead, and he's got it coming out of 4.
That's surprising too. Regan had no help at all from the draft there. As you see the 184 get a little bit of a slingshot back. He pulls to the inside. They're going to be even into turn 1.
As they go even into turn 1, I can report Josue Teles had a moment through the grass on the infield, but he's now recovered. But it's side by side for the lead right now with Bradley Hawley and Richard Regan Jr. Bradley Hawley trying to hold on that bottom side, but Richard Regan definitely has the better run. Wow, Brett Adams getting extremely loose off the nose of Daniel Knight, who's going to look down to the middle of the track. Daniel Knight's going to try and get a run there on Brett Adams on the bottom side. It's going to be tough stuff for these drivers right now. Bradley Hawley looking to the inside just a little bit of Regan Jr., but he's going to stay out of it. Daniel Knight now looking to the bottom side. Brett Adams on the high side. Oh, Daniel gets a little bit loose in the middle of the track. He's going to come up just a little bit. Squeeze Brett Adams off a 2.
That had to be a pucker moment for Brett Adams in that number 23, as Daniel Knight definitely got tight off the turn there. Now looks like he's found a slot to slide into, and they're going to go single file there for the top 4 positions.
One driver that's looking very happy with this setup is Barron Hilton, currently in the 6th position. He's currently underneath Thomas Sink, looking for that 5th spot. Thomas Sink a little bit too high through the dog leg there. He makes a little bit of contact with the outside wall, and they're going to be slowing down just a little bit as they come off of 1 and 2. Man, these tires just not happy. Remember, they've been out here on a couple of restarts, so a couple of heat cycles into these things. Those tires starting to harden up.
And we did mention him briefly there, but definitely got to give a shout out to Barron Hilton running to the 6th position. Started 22nd. This has got to be probably the best run Barron's had in the last couple of seasons, and definitely has to be pretty exciting to get there towards the front of the field.
On his birthday, no less. So doing a great job being very consistent there. Bradley Hawley trying to do the over-under a little bit here on Richard Regan Jr., but he's not going to quite have enough of a run to do so. These trucks looking so difficult to handle off the corner at this stage in the race, but the top 5 single file. Barron Hilton trying to cling to the back of this top 5 group, and then it's a pretty decent gap back down to the rest of the field. But starting off in the 12th position, things start to get a little bit more clustered back there for those drivers as they're still trying to vie for positions down to 15th.
And it looks like at the front of the field, they're still single file, and we're hoping for them to settle down a little bit, Adam. And it looks like maybe that's what they're considering. Of course, as soon as I say that, it looks like Bradley Hawley is starting to challenge for the lead.
I mean, this is definitely one of those tracks where you could for sure move a driver out of the way if you need to, but you got to realize you're probably going to wreck him. Oh my goodness, contact between Brett Adams and Daniel Knight. Brett very loose on the exit of that corner. Thomas Sink looking on with a little bit of hunger. He sees the weakness of Brett Adams as well. Daniel Knight's going to put Brett Adams on that bottom lane. Let's see how Brett's going to be able to handle being down there on that less banked portion of the track. Remember, with the progressive banking, it gets increasingly more banked as you go up the track. Brett's going to slot in behind Daniel Adams in front of Thomas Sink, make Daniel Knight up to the 3rd position.
That was a tremendous heads-up move by Thomas Sink in the 48, by the way. When those two trucks got together in front of him, he reacted with a split-second decision there and would have probably been in the clear had something gone down.
Last lap marked the halfway point as they go past the lap truck of Charles Sumner. That actually caused a little bit of an offline moment for Richard Regan Jr. Is that going to break his momentum enough to be passed by Bradley Holly? Not quite, as Bradley Holly's going to stay in line as they go through 3 and 4.
Now, how much of this is by Bradley Holly's choice that he's going to run in that 2nd spot?
Here's a nice battle between Baron Hilton and Mark Kalin. Mark Kalin and Christopher B. Williams. Christopher B. Williams trying to hang it out there on the bottom side. Mark Kalin very strong on that high side. Mark Kalin has been having a great season so far. He's been very consistent throughout these races and very fast. So let's see whether or not he can close that 1 second gap up to the lead. It's going to be tough here at a momentum and draft-based track.
Well, you know, Mark Kalin has almost seemed to excel in these situations this season. He's got at least 1 podium finish, and I think a couple pretty strong top 5s as well. So Kalin definitely a driver to look out for here at Kansas.
These drivers up at the front that are running a little bit out of tire wear, they're definitely running single file, trying to get a little bit more laps, and they would really like only 1 more pit stop before the end of this race to get a little bit more of an advantage. But their lap times starting to fall off. Best laps are in the low 31s. These laps starting to crack into the 32s. The tire wear starting to affect these drivers up the lead of the field. Currently, Richard Regan Jr. leads over Bradley Holly, Daniel Knight, Brett Adams, and Thomas Sink, who's ducked down to the low side. Bradley Holly just pushing Richard Regan Jr. into 1.
Yeah, you really got to think at this point that Holly's right where he wants to be running in that 2nd spot. He's got to have some kind of strategy play in mind here.
The entire field now strung out single file, riding that high line. Bradley Holly definitely still trying to put pressure on Richard Regan Jr. I think he's trying to force a mistake, but Richard Regan very stalwart up there in that lead. We're going to ride on board right now with Daniel Knight, currently in the 3rd position, looking on back at his, often his championship challenger. Not quite yet this season, but Bradley definitely making a name for himself, trying to make his way back up into the championship points for this season.
Yeah, you got to believe at this point, it's almost weird that we're not talking about a Bradley Holly-Daniel Knight championship battle.
Well, we're definitely talking about it when it comes to the year-long championship, because Bradley Holly, Thomas Sink, and Daniel Knight are top 3 in the season-long or the year-long championship, and they're currently all running in the top 5. So they are definitely trying to do their best to make this round of 8. You can see Thomas Sink just clinging to the back of Brett Adams there. He actually might have a run here. Let's see whether or not he looks to the bottom. He's going to stay in line. Looks like all these drivers in the front are thinking that there's definitely going to be 1 more pit stop, so they're probably just trying to size up when that's going to be and try and make sure that they can make this the longest and fastest run possible. Brett Adams very loose as he got off of 4 that time.
Yeah, we're sitting at about 35 laps to go here. As the field, we did mention we thought this was going to play out like a super speedway race.
Oh, Daniel Knight's in the wall! Daniel Knight carried just a little bit too much speed into 1 and 2 and hits the outside wall, and that's... Who is that? That's Richard Regan Jr. in the outside wall as well. The tires hit the cliff all at once, Chris.
Wow, that's 2 of our contenders there. You see Daniel Knight gets up into the fence, and then Regan, just the same thing, just gets sucked into the wall coming off of turn 2 and just can't get free.
The truck just getting so neutral there through the center of the corner. No way to turn that thing. Thomas Sink getting very close at this stage in the game to doing that as well. But as they get back running, Daniel Knight is going to hold on to that 4th position, but he's nearly a second back. But Richard Regan Jr. has dropped all the way back to 10th, as you saw on screen just a moment ago. This is Daniel Knight you're looking at, trying to recover. Now, granted, he doesn't have that much damage on his right side, but I mean, look at him try and make the progress up. He's already cut down a good 3/10. He's going to get there, Chris.
But he's also going to have to be pushing now just to get back to where he was. Whereas you have your top 3 runners that are just continuing to kind of hang out up there.
Oh, Daniel Knight's clipped the outside wall again. He's clipped the outside wall again. This time he's got some pretty significant right rear damage on that truck. He's going to have to back it down. He's not going to be able to push as much as he wants to. And just to try and salvage this, he needs to get as many points as possible in this race. That was Baron Hilton that slipped by into the 4th position. So Daniel Knight down to 5th, struggling.
Some tough break for Daniel Knight, our points leader, trying to maintain that. And Richard Regan Jr., we mentioned, an infrequent visitor here in the Truck Series, primarily runs in the Cup Series. And we have a challenge for the lead right now as Brett Adams looks to the inside, not able to make it happen in that time. That outside momentum being a huge boost to Holly, and looks like Adams and Sink make just a little bit of contact heading through the tri-oval.
Yeah, Bradley Holly doing a good job of holding on that outside line. Brett Adams with a little bit of front left damage for his truck. Also, that contact that he made with Daniel Knight when Daniel clipped that outside wall. Thomas Sink, though, looking for an opportunity possibly to get by Brett Adams, but he's going to make contact with him going into 3 and 4, trying to push him offline just a little bit. Maybe make the same mistake that Daniel Knight made before. These trucks battling for the lead are battling tooth and nail still. They do not seem to be letting up their pace whatsoever. Baron Hilton still 8/10 back. Daniel Knight has fallen back to about a 1.5 seconds off of these leaders. He's definitely losing track for sure.
We got to be wondering now with obviously the tires going away and making contact with the wall like that, would this be a good time for Richard Regan Jr. to maybe chance a tire change and try for the undercut here on these drivers?
I absolutely would not do that. If I'm having trouble and I believe that I'm one of the best racers out there, I'm not going to come to the pits, but Brett Adams is not going to wait for that to change how the race is going to go, because he's going to take a look to the inside. But man, truck's getting super tight. He's turning the wheel and it's not turning the truck.
Yeah, the amount of understeer they're having off of turn 2 right now is absolutely insane. I mean, Brett Adams looks like he does so well going into turn 1. But by the time he gets to the exit of the corner, that truck is just not turning at all.
I mean, Chris, even though I just said that I wouldn't take the risk of taking a green flag pit stop, at this point, all these drivers begging for a caution to come out because they would love to grab some new tires for these trucks. And with 25 laps, nearly 25 laps to go, they're going to have a lot of work to do to try and hold on to these things until their final pit stops. Ooh, Doug Evans, look at that moment we saw on screen. Doug getting extremely loose off of 1 and 2. He made a little bit of contact with Mark Kalin, who washed up through the corner. That got him just a little bit loose exiting the corner. He was able to save it, but that was a scary moment. Mark Kalin back to 7th. Doug Evans up to 6th. There's the replay.
Yeah, he just had a full head of steam there and had to take evasive action around the slower truck, and, well, truck met wall.
Ooh, a moment of weakness from Bradley Holly through 1 and 2 is going to give an opportunity for Brett Adams to look to the inside yet again. And back there, you see, that's going to be Doug Evans, I think, again, trying to make a move there on Daniel Knight. But here we go, still side by side as they exit 3 and 4. This might be Brett Adams' best opportunity he's had, and Thomas Sink's best opportunity to make it up into 2nd.
But it's like Thomas Sink isn't ready to go. Ooh, as he almost hits the wall there going towards 1. But I feel like Brett Adams could complete the pass if Thomas Sink would just go with him. And so far, that's not happening. And now Adams is going to lose 2nd to Sink.
Brett Adams on Adams Family Team Racing. Bradley Holly and Thomas Sink both on different WEBB teams, but they're sister teams, so you can expect that kind of a team play from those two drivers, even though there aren't many team tactics here. Stacey Hunter down there on the bottom side, staying out of their way. Ryan Travers going to be the next lap truck that they deal with, but Bradley Holly and Thomas Sink now leading this race. Thomas Sink trying to take a little bit of a different line, a little bit of a different look, and Brett Adams makes contact with the outside wall. This is right in front of Baron Hilton, who has to take to the low line. He should be able to get the pass done, but Brett Adams is going to keep his foot in it. He's going to say, no, I'm not willing to give this up.
Baron Hilton is just quietly having such an impressive performance here. He's keeping his nose clean, which is something just about none of the top drivers can say in this race right now. And he's quietly up there in the top 5, and this may be a career day for Baron Hilton.
Baron Hilton just now holding on to that position over Daniel Knight, who clips the inside grass just a little bit. He's able to get back up and get up there safely. Daniel just not having a well-handling truck at this point, but the lead still tied between Bradley Holly, Thomas Sink, and Brett Adams. Baron Hilton now 4/10 behind. These laps times have just plummeted 2.5 seconds since they started their run this time.
Well, we're definitely in the home stretch as far as tire strategy goes. And getting where that Brendan Chatley may have gotten into the wall a little further back in the field. Chatley has had a very adventurous race after being caught up in that caution earlier on, and now challenging looks like one of his teammates there for position.
That's Austin Hunter that he's making his way by for 15th position. But these trucks just behaving so poorly at this point in the race, and even more trucks making contact. This might be a caution. That was the 0-9 of... Oh my goodness, I think that was Richard Regan Jr., Doug Evans, and Christopher B. Williams. That was a scary 3-wide moment out of 1 and 2. Here's the replay.
Oh yeah, Williams tagged the wall, and Regan had to react pretty quick there and just clipped that machine of Williams as he was trying to get underneath him.
So a couple of drivers are choosing to take early pit stops there in the back of the pack. Stacy Hunter and Ryan Traver early in the pit cycle, so they're definitely going to be trying an alternate strategy to try and improve their track position as they come back off. This battle for the top 5 continues to be hot between Bradley Holly, Thomas Sink, Brett Adams, Baron Hilton, and Daniel Knight. They're all now line astern.
You got to think, if you're running towards the back of the field right now, with the way the fall off has been, it's probably not a bad idea to at least give it a chance.
Definitely not a bad idea as Thomas Sink has a little bit of connection issues tucked in there. Oh, and never mind, that was a pit stop from Colton Lane, who already has his damage, so he's already on an off strategy, trying to make progress there in that truck, trying to recover from the troubles he had before. But man, those top 5 have broken away to a 3-second gap over Mark Kalin. And there's Richard Regan Jr., just like you predicted, Chris, and our director, Joe, into the pit lane early from the rest of the leaders after losing positions. So he's going to take to his pit stop, try and get some fresh tires and maybe make some progress on the field. But with how fast the tires fall off here, it's going to be hard to hold on to them for the rest of this race.
Yeah, I definitely don't admire anybody that's going to try to make tires last any longer than they have to.
Richard Regan Jr. with no tire stop. That's an interesting decision. Baron Hilton's come into the pit lane as well. So Richard Regan Jr. thinking he might be able to catch the rest of the crew off guard here. So Baron Hilton in from the 4th position. Adam Young's in the pits as well. Baron misses his box. That's going to be hugely costly.
Well, that's such a tough break for Baron Hilton, who's ran just a flawless race so far.
Lap times continuing to plummet for these drivers into the low 33s at this stage of the race. Mid 33s, correction. Bradley Holly currently leading over Thomas Sink, Brett Adams, and Daniel Knight. Mark Kalin almost 4 seconds back at this stage in the game. So Chris, when are these guys going to come into their pit stops? We're going to come around to 69 to go this time by. Bradley Holly on that low line. I think he's coming in this time. Yes, he is. Him and Brett Adams both coming into the pits.
So I guess if I'm Bradley Holly, I'm going to pit right now.
And Daniel Knight comes in as well. So 3 of your top 5 runners into the pits. Let's see whether or not they take tires. I would expect them to. But with Richard Regan Jr. not taking tires...
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see about the tire strategy here. I mean, they're 2 seconds slower on the older tires, and you got to think that's... You see Bradley Holly, he's getting tires, which definitely not surprised there, but the no tire thing just kind of blows my mind there.
Well, it might blow your mind to know that Daniel Knight only took 2 tires that time around, so he wanted track position on Bradley Holly. He thinks that's the important bit. Bradley Holly is going to be able to take the gap of about 3 seconds on Brett Adams, but Richard Regan Jr., with that no tire stop, is going to come out in front of Bradley Holly, but crucially, it might be behind Daniel Knight. here we come through 3 and 4, and Daniel Knight's going to be able to retain that position over Richard Regan Jr., so the no tire stop not working out for him as well as he would like, unfortunately. But Richard Regan Jr., remember, he pitted from about the 10th position, so this is track position game.
So a whole slew of strategies here, 2 tires, no tires, and 4 tires. And we'll see which one was the superior way to do it.
Well, I can let you know that Richard Regan Jr. scraping the outside wall, that's definitely not going to be the way to do it. Unfortunately, he's going to lose a position to Bradley Holly as Bradley ducks down to the inside. The real question is the 2 tires going to work out for Daniel Knight here, or is Bradley Holly just going to eat him alive? We'll have to keep our eyes on that, as Daniel Knight currently crossing the line in the 9th position, but in the provisional lead of this race.
More cars heading towards pit road. Mark Kalin comes down from the lead.
Mark Kalin in from the lead of this race. He was about 4 seconds behind our group of pitters when those folks came into pit lane, so it'll be interesting to see what the gap ends up being after the pit stops.
So provisionally, Daniel Knight would be your leader of the cars that did pit.
Oh my goodness, it's going to be huge.
And
Mark Kalin staying out for 2 laps is going to cost him, I can't believe it, nearly 5-6 seconds at this point, and growing.
Ouch.
But here comes the pass for the possible lead of the race. Bradley Holly to the inside of Daniel Knight, and Daniel Knight has nothing to give. Those 2 tires not working out. Oh my goodness, that was close.
Yeah, that was definitely a tight moment.
So Daniel Knight, it's just the 2 tires not working out for him. The truck's just too tight at this point. It will not turn. That left front tire just not gripping at all. He's already lost the position to Bradley Holly. He's going to hang on to it as long as he can, but with a damaged truck and only 2 tires against Bradley Holly's 4, I'm not sure whether this was the right call. Baron Hilton with his decent pit stop, even with missing the pit box, he's still tucked in behind Brett Adams, but they're now 3.5 seconds back of Bradley Holly and Daniel Knight. Looks like our race leader, Adam Shane, got into the outside wall, unfortunately, so he's definitely going to have to come into the pits fairly soon. He's got the battle for that potential top 3 up ahead of him.
Now, here's another wrinkle into this scenario with right now close to 32-second lead over 30. No, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong line there. 26-second lead. Do you think some of these drivers, like an Adam Shane or Kyle Strikers, will maybe try to make it to the end? See if they can hold that advantage? I mean, they are quite a significant difference between lap times from the rest of the field, but we're within 10 laps to go now, Adam.
Kyle Strykar's last pitted on lap 22, which is quite a while ago. I'm not sure how far he can go, but Adam Shane and Brendan Chatley both pitting on lap 35 or 36, so they've got some more time, but looks like Strykar's is going to come in, so that's going to answer the question as far as how long of a fuel stint is going to last. It's about 52 laps, including all the cautions that we've had, so Shane and Chatley can definitely get it done as far as the fuel is concerned. The question is, do they have a big enough gap? Bradley Holly's last lap was a 31.8 versus Adam Shane's 33.5. We're all doing math in the booth, which is always a scary proposition, but our director is saying that it might be possible to get that done, so those folks up there in the lead are hoping that the caution doesn't come out. Now remember, Bradley Holly, Daniel Knight, Thomas Sink, all these guys still have one set of tires left. Brendan Chatley may not. He's come to pit road 4 times so far. Adam Shane and Jose Tellez both have extra sets of tires in the pits as well, so if a caution were to come out, it would even the playing field for all these drivers once again. But with less than 10 to go, when Bradley Holly with 21 seconds to make up, I'm not sure he has the tires to do it, Chris.
Yeah, I think this one's going to, if we stay green, it's going to work out for Adam Shane. And I've noticed watching him, he's definitely tiptoeing around the track now on those older tires. We saw him nearly get into the wall earlier, and he's definitely pulling aside and letting the quicker trucks go, and seems to be taking a very ginger line around the track.
So as they come around, looks like Bradley Holly is taking about 1.2 to 1.5 seconds per lap, but with 6 to go, that's not enough time to get there. So Adam Shane currently leads over Brendan Shatley, Austin Hunter in 3rd position, Josue Tellez in 4th, and he's the worst on fuel. Then comes Bradley Holly in the 5th spot. Daniel Knight's falling back 3 seconds off of Bradley. Thomas Sink, Brett Adams, and Baron Hilton currently are separated by less than 3 seconds between each of them, trying to battle for the 7th spot, and they're gaining on Daniel Knight quite closely. That was the lap comparison between Adam Shane and Bradley Holly. Oh, and there was a big holdup in the mid-pack with Dominic Bajin and Jose Medina and Matthew Kolonik. All these drivers looked like they almost came together through 1 and 2. And here continues that battle with all these drivers. That's Adam Shane that's involved in that mess.
Yeah, you got to think this is the last thing in the world Adam Shane wants. He just wants to have a nice, quiet, low-key run to the checkered, and now he's in the mix of like a 5-truck battle per position.
So Adam Shane is much slower than the rest of these drivers. As you see Richard Regan Jr. getting extremely tight there, and that's what's causing this issue. These drivers are not used to passing the leader on older tires. Adam, oh my goodness, that's as close as you can get to the outside wall that time around for Adam Shane. He is on the edge of his tire life and starting to lose a lot more time to Bradley Holly, but with 3 to go this time by, and Bradley 15 seconds back, all Adam needs to do is just not lose 5 seconds a lap here. He just needs to keep going straight at this point.
God, this feels like watching Lightning McQueen.
You know, with running on his rims at this point, Adam Shane in clearly a very poorly handling truck, but if the fuel strategy can get him to the end, it's going to be reminiscent of that Indy 500 win done on fuel. Richard Regan Jr. now looking on to the back of Adam Shane to make a pass. He's going to do that easily. Adam Shane just moving out of the way of these lapped trucks, these trucks that he has lapped. Austin Hunter is going to come to the pit lane, so he's going to bail out of his strategy, and that's going to move Bradley Holly up to 4th position, 13.5 seconds back. Adam's committed to this strategy now, Chris. He's definitely committed to the end. As he comes around 3 and 4, it'll be the white flag lap this time.
Yeah, there's no turning back for Adam Shane right now. And how about Brendan Shatley? That truck ended up completely getting spun out towards the middle of the race there, and he's up running in the 2nd spot. He's on track to have a podium finish now.
Adam Shane now on his final lap of the race. The 65 truck with Nair an option to possibly try and get this thing done, but he's out of fuel! Adam Shane's out of fuel! He's trundling down the backstretch. Brendan Shatley now coming out of 1 and 2. Adam's not going to get there. Brendan Shatley is low on fuel as well. Bradley Holly is coming through 3 and 4. Brendan Shatley low on fuel. Adam Shane low on fuel. Adam Shane's out. Brendan Shatley's out. Bradley Holly is going to come around 3 and 4 and take this win on fuel strategy. Brendan Shatley and Adam Shane just did not get the qualification right, and Bradley Holly's going to win it. Oh my goodness. Thomas Sink coming home 2nd. Brett Adams in 3rd. Daniel Knight comes home in 4th. Adam Shane has not yet crossed the line. Adam Shane will creep home into the 12th position. 1 lap short, Chris.
If you listen close enough right now, you can hear Adam Shane's heart break.
Well, Bradley Holly was able to make it back around to the line just as Adam Shane tries to crawl out past pit exit. But Bradley Holly, I mean, what a win from Bradley. He just did it on the pit strategy. His pit entrance and exit once again impeccable. But Bradley Holly takes his first win, and in an unconventional fashion. That's going to take us to a short break here on the GSRC, but don't go anywhere. We will have those very unofficial race results and some interviews for you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series here at Kansas. Yet another unbelievable finish. As Chris Foby said in the break, we've had it all here at the PRL Truck Series. Bradley Holly comes home with the win after Adam Shane runs out of fuel on the final lap. Thomas Sink's going to get second. Brett Adams third, Daniel Knight fourth, and Brendan Chatley is going to trundle home in the fifth position. Baron Hilton gets sixth today with Doug Evans in seventh and Mark Kalin in eighth, Christopher B. Williams in ninth, and Matthew Aubrey coming home in 10th.
Jose Medina comes home in 11th with Dominic Beijing in 12th. A broken-hearted Adam Shane settling for 13th after leading on the last lap. Richard Regan Jr., an exciting race for him, comes home 14th with Nicholas Hunter 15th. Colton Lane is going to finish in the 16th position with Jose Tellez, Adam Young, Matthew Polhanick, and Kyle Strikers completing your top 20.
Now we get to the trucks that had a lot of trouble. Kenny Rodriguez, Austin Hunter, both a lap down. Stacy Hunter, 2 laps down with Brandon Sauls, Ryan Traver, Brandon Walter, Danny Cervantes, 3 laps down. Charles Sumner, 3 laps down. And then the rest of the trucks did not make it to the finish of this race. Mike Richter, Paul Williams, Patrick Cowgill, John Labath, Doyle Lawrence, Greg Corson, and Paul Johnson. But we have caught up with Bradley Holly. Bradley, did you think that they were going to run out of fuel on the last lap? Were you fairly sure you were going to win this one tonight?
Actually, no, I was not sure. I honestly didn't know when was the last time they were in. So when I went in, it was kind of a judgment call. I was planning on actually going in with 10 laps to go or so and just taking fuel. Then I heard Richard was going in the pits, so I changed my mind, went in with, I think, 19 to go, took tires, and just kept it to the floor.
A very tight battle up there for the lead of this race, and you've been having some trouble throughout the rest of this season getting up there to the lead, but tonight you were able to do so quite effectively. But how tough is the field out there this season? It seems like everyone's ramped up their competitiveness a bit.
Oh, it's gotten much better over the last couple seasons, and I'm stoked for it. It makes racing so much more fun when there's, stiff competition and you have to watch for numerous guys and try to outsmart them and to take home the victory.
Well, Bradley, we have a quick one tonight, but is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting us week in, week out, PRL for hosting these races, our sponsors, and the Waterback team.
All right, thanks for talking to us, Bradley, and we look forward to seeing you in Texas.
Thank you very much.
That was Bradley Holly, our winner tonight, and it looks like Chris Foby's caught up with Thomas Sink, who finished second.
Well, Thomas, a very adventurous finish there, going into the end there. Did you think second place was even on the radar?
Not at all. I was watching the leaderboard, and I'm pretty sure those guys pitted on the last pits or last yellow. I wasn't sure, and I was just kind of like, well, top 6, top 5 is just going to do it. And then Brad started yelling on the comms, they're out of fuel, and I looked down on the bottom of, I think it was 3 and 4, and they were barely moving. It was such a relief to know I was going to come back and finish second.
Now, these making the most out of these types of situations as you've had today definitely helps in the championship hunt, you got to think.
Yeah, that's kind of the big picture, especially after my embarrassing moment last week. So the goal right now is just to have solid finishes to lock myself into the next round.
All right. Who do you want to thank to help make this one possible for you?
Thank my girlfriend for bringing me dinner tonight. She's excellent. Love you. Muscle Farm for sponsoring the truck. Brad Holly for making a late race call. You guys, of course, for putting on a great broadcast. PRL for doing this league and trading paints for everything they've done for me over the years.
All right. That was our runner-up finisher tonight, Thomas Sink. And Adam, I believe you've caught up with our third place finisher, Brett Adams.
Yeah, Brett, you had a very exciting race tonight. Plenty of door-to-door action, plenty of door-banging action with multiple drivers. But did you really conceive that you were going to be able to finish third tonight?
I went into this week knowing I was in the round of 12 and committed to putting in the laps this week to try to do as best I could. So I put in 100 laps or so last night, and so I definitely came into this race thinking I was going to podium. At 10 to go, I did not. It was pretty wild to see those 3 guys run out of fuel, man, on the last lap.
Absolutely, a fantastic finish for you for sure, and that's definitely going to improve your standings when it comes to the making it to the round of 8. What are your thoughts heading into Texas as far as the year-long championship is concerned?
Well, I mean, kind of same deal, right? Mile and a half. I imagine the setup will be a little bit on the tight side. I'm just going to grind out some practice and try to get another podium out of it.
Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go today, Brett?
Well, a couple folks. First, I want to actually apologize to Daniel Knight for giving a little bump there with 3 to go. Feel bad about that one, but still glad about the finish. Big thanks to my teammates and brothers, Blaine and Brandon Adams, our sponsor, Spirit Ride, Equine Therapy out of Banner Elk, North Carolina. Of course, my wife, Lindsay, who watches every race, and a big thanks to you guys for putting on a great show.
That was Brett Adams, our third place finisher. We look forward to seeing you next week. All right, that's going to take us out to the end of our show. But before we let you go, we want to let you know that that GSRC has advertising options available for you. This channel boasts over 1 million global monthly impressions, and those branding opportunities include official series sponsorships, ad reads, race awards, and more. Follow the link in the description to learn more. And we want to give a big thank you to the Precision Racing League for bringing us on for another season, and a big thank you to their season sponsor, WEBB Hearing Centers. Make sure to visit them in the link in the description. And also to ButtKicker for sponsoring the entire Precision Racing League this season. We also want to give a thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. And as always, many thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our awesome music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team tonight, Chris, Joe, and Dougie. If you want to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find us at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media, which is Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support the channel, we also have a store envy. That's gsrc.storeenvy.com. Check out our merchandise there as well. The link is in the description below. If you want to see more racing action, hit that big red subscribe button as long as it's red, and that way you won't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Now, next for these drivers is going to be Texas Motor Speedway. That's October 21st at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If it's gone anything like this season has so far, you're not going to want to miss it. Next up, coming in up in about 13 minutes, is going to be Lionheart IndyCar Series. Very exciting series that you're going to want to watch as well, so don't go anywhere. Drop in on GSRC and we'll do that as well. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until then, we hope you've enjoyed joining us for this race as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you, and we hope to see you back on our channel soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.